Hi guys. I'm ClickSave. I work with Gabe. And we're building RYO, which is an on-chain game. It's aspirationally trying to be an autonomous world. But today I want to talk about something that's been on my mind recently, which is designing extensible games, design and extensible games, and some of the unique challenges that might come from a game that's designed to outlive you. I have a couple mock titles in the header, but I wanted to start with a metaphor, Frankenstein's monster. So this is like old. It was written in like the 1800s, but fundamentally it's about a massive technological achievement. The guy was a nice dude. He was unfortunately reborn on the wrong side of the uncanny valley and ultimately gate-kept because of that. So relative to the humans in the world, he didn't fit. He was on the other side of the uncanny valley, but relative to the story, he fit. He was deeply embedded into Frankenstein. But that is not always the case. So stylistic and the uncanny valley, it can exist in like the horror genre, like tactfully, but if it exists like stylistically, because multiple teams are participating in game design, like co-participating, it subverts expectations and it can create problems. So this is something that happens a lot with games. It happens a lot on Steam with asset flipping. There's quite a bit to say about asset flipping, but I kind of want to focus on the stylistic repercussions of it in its worst excesses. You can download an asset on any kind of asset marketplace, and when you just throw them into the same world, you get a lot of variation in what gets produced. Like here we have an example of a hyper-realistic dog, a super cartoony penguin, some mushrooms, and these were not built and designed by the same author. It creates a bunch of problems. So these worlds feel hastily constructed. It's hard to integrate them effectively. It breaks immersion, and it lacks kind of like a holistic artistic vision. And you can see on the right, these are pretty good examples of like how it can go wrong. You have PNGs with transparent backgrounds, some with black backgrounds. When you throw them all together, it kind of feels like this like collage of different pieces of art rather than like a holistic game design. It can be done right. PUBG, these are great games, and they all used marketplace assets initially. Eventually they grew out of them and replaced those assets with like custom designs. But the thing that kind of unites all of these projects is that they were solo teams that put them together. So they were able to impose an artistic vision and design constraints on like what assets they used and how they integrated them into the game. Going back to the Frankenstein metaphor, that's not always going to be the case. If you're designing a game to rely on user-generated content to be extensible, one team might have different competencies when it comes to this kind of stuff. Like you might have a developer who wants to contribute, who doesn't have a design background, isn't as good at like replicating a certain style. So if team one contributes the image on the right and team two contributes the image on the left, if you combine them, you kind of break a really important part of communicating a narrative. This happens a lot in movies too, and time is merciless. It completely it's hard to do a long series. Like oftentimes like a young actor will be cast and they'll go through a growth spurt, and the difference between movie 2 and movie 3 is tremendous. In this example, Dumbledore, this Richard Harris passed away after the second movie, and they replaced him with a separate actor. So it's not a new problem. So worlds are designed to, I mean, it's cool that they're designed to be client agnostic, and that's, it's very interesting and important, but builders aren't necessarily agnostic to the client. Like, it's a lot easier to start from something than to start from zero. So I expect what's going to happen a lot is people will want to add something to an already existing game, and they'll want to, like, the thing that they build to kind of fit into the work that's already been done. So just some things that you can do. You can't enforce it because somebody can, like, build their own client and deploy it. But you can publish a style guide, which is great. If you make it semantic, that's awesome too. Like, you can assign, like, this is the background color. That can help. You can build a component library, which is super helpful, and ship it with an SDK. And then you should consider these trade-offs. So as the fidelity of the asset that is communicating your game or your experience increases, it increases the narrative depth, but it also decreases the ease to reproduce that thing. So if like I'm about here at the illustration level, I can do pixel art very well. And I assume that if my goal in designing a game that's intended to be extensible is to lower the bar to entry for developers and designers, this is something that I would consider. It's like, how am I communicating the core message of my game? So Sandbox games. I love Sandbox games as something to look at for like on-chain games and future autonomous worlds, because they are filled with player-driven goals. They require and encourage user-generated content. There's a ton of experimentation. They're mod-friendly, and there's no, like, hard endpoint to them. They're limitless. So let's, like, look at a couple, and they've kind of solved this problem in some different interesting ways. So, like, Roblox, they built their own editor. Like, there's a separate piece of software that you go in to build your world, much like the Warcraft editor that Gabe was talking about. Arma. So Arma, this is the genesis of the DayZ mod. They just went all out with their asset design. They built a ton of assets. They were very meticulous about it, and they shipped it with an asset pack and an SDK, and people are able to compose those assets to create unique experiences. Minecraft's amazing. I love the way that you access worlds in a lot of these servers, where they have these portals and you physically go into the new game. But the game fundamentally is the editor in Minecraft, which helps them kind of solve that stylistic consistency problem. And then I wanted to present a foil. VR chat is kind of designed for narrative misfire. So like, you have these different models, and that's kind of the point. And it's this, like, battleground of competing narratives. And the magical cool thing is when, like, jokes and funny moments kind of emerge from that soup of VR chat. And it's super immersive too, because you're putting a VR headset on and like living with this. Okay. Oh gosh. I updated my slides, and I added an assembly question, but I could say it. I'm still not sure where on-chain games end and autonomous worlds begin. So if anybody has any clear ideas about that, or a strong opinion, please come find me, and I'd love to talk about it.